All right, you are still watching Good Morning Nigeria. And we are set to begin our conversation on the countdown to May 29 inauguration. And to set the tone for today's conversation, here is an excerpt from yesterday's discussion put together by Abdul Salam Jibril.
We're even going to have fireworks.
Wow.
Yes.
And the National Council of Arts and Culture had done its own bit and walked out to the states to do selection so that there will be all the colors, all the tribes, all the different dancing groups, both masquerades. We told them that the big masquerade should not be there, the same must be there. So it's a gamut of festivities, given the moderation of the incumbent president. You know, he doesn't like throwing money away. so we wanted to be more expansive. But Mr. President said, for God's sake, we still need to know within the limits, but it's going to be a harvest.
You know, the difference President Muhammadu Buhari has made is that he is focused on getting things done. And again, without going into politics, the people from whom we took power, they were here 16 years. They were very good in laying foundation stones, but they never were good in completing projects. President Muhammadu Buhari became focused on doing things and getting them done, completing projects. There are ministries in government, 8 years, they never initiated one single project that is new. All they have been doing is complete what they found, because it's public money that had been invested in all of these things. So they've been doing completing projects.
So I think if you can feel what's going on, even in the political space, you'll see that there's been a lot of bring to the table, in quote and unquote. So it's like a unity government coming up, and you can see very clearly there have been discussions, engagements with different political parties, bringing them all on the table to ensure that we go beyond party now into governance and look at how we can move Nigeria forward. I think within the first 24, 48 hours, you had that drag, that it's not my party that won, and all of that. You had all the hate going on, all the attacks on social media and the rest of it. But if you have noticed in the last 2 weeks, the narrative is beginning to change. You hear pastors now coming out in church to say, look, Asiwaju is going to be president, nothing is going to happen, and we need to all go and work with him. You hear the imams, you hear everyone beginning to key in and understand that this is Nigeria, it belongs to all of us.
All right, those were excerpts from our conversation on the subject matter yesterday. Today we are continuing, and we're hoping to be joined by a member of the Presidential Transition Committee. He will be joining us via Zoom. As soon as our engineers sort that out, we'll bring him on. We're talking about Chief Wale Edu. We also have here in the studios Ahmad Sajo, former Commissioner for Information and Strategy in Adamawa State. Honorable Ahmad Sajo, we're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Well, as transitions go, what's the outlook in your opinion? Are we well on course for having a succession from the outgoing president to the incoming president? What are the optics?
I think we are on course. Definitely we are on course. The outgoing president had made it very clear that he is preparing, doing everything possible to ensure that he hands over on the 29th. And the leader of the transition process is the SGF, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. And that automatically means that the government is fully, involved in planning to hand over to the incoming government. We've seen that all the activities that have been carried out in the last 5 days have been geared towards ensuring that there's a smooth transition. The president, the outgoing president, had even been hosted to a military dinner as commander-in-chief by the military, telling him that, look, we appreciate you leading us for the past 8 years, and we wish you well. So we're sure that everything is going to happen, and we have also seen a frenzy of activities relating to commissioning of projects and dedication of projects, naming of projects, just to indicate that, look, the president is winding down, perhaps, let's say, in a blaze of glory, so that he can hand over to the incoming president. And I'm aware also, because I have contact with people in the inauguration, the different committees of the inauguration. Every aspect of the inauguration is being planned with some level of precision. I know that a few of the people I've interfaced with who are in the security committee, for example, had told me that they have done everything possible to ensure that the transition, the change of guards will be done in a very peaceful and orderly manner. I am aware also that people in the media, NTA and other media organizations that will transmit the process live, had been interfacing with the inauguration committee to ensure that the world gets to see what's going to happen. One of the highlights of a change of guards from one commander-in-chief to the other is the exchange of military colors. The military colors, the new military colors have been unveiled. Those military colors will be handed over to the new commander-in-chief on the day of the inauguration. That has been done. The parade rehearsals have been taking place regularly. So we know that is going to happen, and the transition the inauguration is on course. But we also know that there are a lot of other things that are taking place at the background that will ensure that the inauguration is also a success.
Okay. Apart from elaborate ceremonies, the ecstatic moments that we're expecting on the 29th of May, what usually characterizes change of power with respect to other aspects of governance, apart from the ceremony? The handover could also connote some other engagements with the president and president-elect with respect to ministries, parastatals, the governance structure, and what have you. Would that not be such kind of interface between the two presidents, the president-elect and the outgoing president, on certain teething matters or challenges or whatever that may have been existing before the winding down of this administration? Wouldn't that be such a kind of interface as part of a handover activities?
I think that has been going on, but there is something very fundamental that we all need to know about changes in governance. The last time we had a change, say in 2015 and even in 2019, that even when a government inherited itself, there was a lull, there was a gap between the swearing in of the president and the establishment of the cabinet. It was a long period, like 6 months or thereabout. That we're not going to face this time around, because the constitution has been amended that the president-elect has a maximum of 2 months within which to put a cabinet together. And that is definitely telling on the transition process. As I'm talking to you now, I am pretty sure that certain fundamentals for the establishment of a cabinet within the shortest possible time are already being done. And because government is a continuum, ministers have been told by the president that they will leave office after the inauguration of the new president. The current president did not dissolve his cabinet. He asked the cabinet to continue, to go back to their offices. That's what he told them yesterday, to go back to their offices and continue. But we know that a lot of them have completed their handing over process. They are handing over to their permanent secretaries. Don't forget, these permanent secretaries are the accounting officers in the ministries. So the new ministers will come and meet them. If there are questions to be asked with regards to what is going on, they will be the ones to answer. So the process of handing over and taking over is going to be coordinated. It's going to be smooth and seamless because the permanent secretaries who are part of this government will continue, will be the ones to hand over to the next government. That is being discussed. But if you really want to know, there is a slight gap. And that slight gap that some of us have noticed in the process is that beyond our discussions during campaigns, beyond what we have in the manifesto Renewed Hope, by now, the discussion in the public space would have been some of the key policy focus of the incoming government. And that is a little bit missing. And it's not just from the transition team or from the team of the incoming government or the outgoing government, but even within the public space. I think we are focusing more on patronage. Who gets what? When you read in the newspapers about the change of government, you see speculations as to who will make a cabinet, who will not make a cabinet position, what will happen. But two things we are not discussing properly. What policies the new people are going to drive, and then two, what are the criteria we will use in determining our cabinet? These are very, very important. You know,
Abasajo, thank you for that. But on Good Morning Nigeria, we have for some weeks running been focusing on cardinal issues after May 29th, which is a way of directing attention to relevant policy matters. Some of the conversations we've had up to 2 or 3 parts in various segments, whether in the power sector, whether it's in the question of refineries, which was one of the things we took on lately, and the broad spectrum of other matters. But we know that there is also litigation that is ongoing. So that is also occupying the attention of some persons with respect to the outcome of the presidential election. But more importantly, the transition and inauguration are unstoppable according to our constitutional prescription. And therefore, the processes, unless, of course, there are the circumstances that are also prescribed in the Constitution arise, and between now and May 29th, there's no way that any of those circumstances will materialize to thwart the inauguration process. But relating to the outgoing Federal Executive Council, I think this is a very important point that you also raised, because I don't know why Nigerians seem to be enthusiastic about this, and you find the way it is sometimes couched in the papers. Look, a government that was sworn in on the 29th of May, and the tenure is coming to an end, whether at the state level or at the federal level. If you are an appointee of such a government, you know that the best you would get would be the last day of the administration. So in some states, I've read some headlines. Something governor sacks cabinet. Something sacks aides. I mean, you have barely a few days to go, and then you are writing sacks. You know, it's that kind of excitement you find in the public space. As you say in local parlance, may they go, governor don't sack all of them.
The governor don't
sack
all of them.
In the case of the Federal Executive Council, the president has not announced the formal dissolution of the Federal Executive Council. That will be done by Sunday. By Sunday, which is the 28th, I imagine, because you will not say that on the 29th of May, all attention will be on the president-elect and the vice president-elect as they subscribe to the oath of office and then the oath of allegiance. So by any action you will take as a minister, member of the Federal Executive on the 29th of May, on what basis will you be taking that? Because your principal will himself have been functus official by the 29th of May. So best case scenario,
will be the 28th of May. I mean, I have experienced that personally, and I know what I'm talking about, that up to the 28th of May, you get that done, and then you move on. But my question would be, in terms of what we are saying, transitions, does 2023 look more like 2015 or look more like 2007?
I think it looks more like 2007 because it's the same party. It's an APC handing over to another APC. But it also looks like 2015 because the atmosphere, the apprehension, the atmosphere was very charged in 2015. People were hopeful that there would be a groundbreaking change of leadership, kind of. It's the same way people are looking forward to a groundbreaking change in leadership. Nigerians, really want to see things done differently. Like the manifesto of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu says, renewed hope. The hope is very high. The hope is very high, and we believe that, and don't forget that there's a difference between the outgoing president and the incoming president. The outgoing president was essentially not a core politician. We had a lot of people had simply a very faint idea of what he did as a military head of state in 1983-84 to even remember, and use it to assess him. It was just simply that a new president has come and that change is in the air, that kind of a thing. But here we have a president that is a core politician, somebody who had contested election and won as a senator, somebody who has contested election and won twice as a governor, somebody who ran a state that a lot of people allude to as a wonder state, something that a place that you could pin what he had done and things like that. So people are using that to hope on the fact that Asiwaju will play politics differently, and he will engineer development on a different trajectory based on an experience of what he did in Lagos. This is what people are hoping for. So people are looking at the two. Yes, it's the same party, but there are differences in the personalities. Again, when Osibanjo came as vice president, very little is known about him as a person. He was Attorney General of Lagos State. That was all people knew about him. But Kashim Shettima, you cannot say the same of him. Kashim Shettima was also a two-term governor, and he's a serving senator. It's somebody whose views and his position within the public space is well known. So people are saying, look, here are two seasoned politicians, people who have contested elections before, people who understand the nuances of the legislature and the executive, people who have had positions of leadership at different levels with serious challenges. Asiwaju was challenged by the fact that Lagos was a very rich state that did not have enough revenue. He raised the revenue profile. He did that, so perhaps he could raise the revenue profile of Nigeria. Shettima ran as governor at a time when part of his state was run over by insurgents, and then he was able to manage the insecurity and the insurgency to a large extent. So people are really very, very hopeful to a large extent that these two people understand exactly what politics and governance entails. And it's from that perspective that they're looking at the change. Otherwise, it's still the same party.
Okay, yes, because when the president said, according to what Kinsley, noted a while ago, that the ministers should go back to their offices, that's also a part of reason you just mentioned. It's the same party, APC to APC, and there's not be a gap in governance because of a transition from one government to another. That could be the reason why. One, I'm thinking in a different direction as to say, look, if a president is elected, you are president-elect, within the period within which you are declared winner and the period of inauguration, wouldn't it be possible for you to raise a cabinet? Because the party has won election, you know yourselves, there's no difficulty, much difficulty in getting the names of those that will become ministers. So why wait until after inauguration that we begin to now say you have 2 months to get to inaugurate your cabinet? I'm thinking that is it not a possibility, to say, look, within this period, let's work on this, because what are they working on now? Is it just the handover ceremony? Should also be working on governance at the same time. So by the time you are inaugurated, from day one, you kickstart. And not to begin to now have meetings. Some people will start doing a jostling. Some people will start doing other, political, manipulations, arguments. We start who becomes minister, who becomes what. That it take 2 months. It took 6 months in 2015, and now Constitution has given 2 months. Me and perhaps some other Nigerians would think that the 2 months is even too much. If you're a professional politician, like you mentioned, although we don't believe that they're professional politicians, but in Nigeria, people believe they're professional politicians. From the way you distinguish between the president-elect and his vice, and of course, the current vice president and the president, fine and good. But I've been in the political space for a while, right? So there shouldn't be much difference in terms of, okay, this man is more professional, or because he has practiced politics for a very long time, has won elections and what have you. So why this long delay for a president-elect to form a cabinet? Why is it a problem?
No, I think the president-elect is not dilly-dallying at all on the formation of his cabinet. That I can tell you, that the policy documents for the different sectors of our national life have been developed and they're being fine-tuned. Presently, I can say that authoritatively. Secondly, the criteria for determining who fills which position to drive the policy has already been fashioned out, and to a large extent, the people that would drive the process are known. But, when the crown prince begins to appoint his own courtiers, the king will feel challenged. So it's not possible for the president-elect to begin to couple a cabinet when he has not collected the levers of authority. That would be like challenging the current leadership.
No, I think let us also be clear about something. Even if the president-elect were to say, these are my cabinet members, they can only be nominees because they still have to go for confirmation hearings in the Senate.
Exactly.
And, and that would be by communication from the president, as he then would be, to the Senate. That will not happen on the 29th of May. It may not happen on the 30th of May. And you cannot railroad the Senate into having a timetable within which to hold the confirmation hearings and confirm or reject the nominees. But all of that must be done within 60 days.
Yes, confirmation of a minister is totally different from nominating the minister. For instance, what I'm saying is that between the time you have been given certificate of authority by INEC, that you have been elected, duly elected, that's what they say, you are president-elect. Now, in the background, you begin to select your men. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to select. What I'm saying is this, that after inauguration, 29th of May, what stops the president-elect from saying, I already have my ministers nominees? As soon as the Senate is inaugurated, you present them. Then waiting for 2 months, 2 months.
No, he's not going to wait. Let's say there is a constitutional window of 2 months. But that does not mean, first and foremost, like what my brother raised now, he has to send the names to the Senate. If he announces the names before sending to the Senate,
must he announce it?
Exactly.
Yeah, must he announce it?
So as I am talking to you now, like I told you, the two issues that will determine the cabinet are first, the policy document that will drive the governance process, and then two, the criteria for determining who qualifies to drive the policy document. within certain sectors. Those criteria have already been worked out. What matter, the names are mostly known, but if you announce them before presenting to the Senate, I don't think it will be
You must not
proper.
announce it. Let him have it.
Exactly.
So he doesn't waste time.
Kyria, I mean, if you say that he must have it, you and I are not with the president-elect or the vice president-elect. Suppose he has it and it is in his drawer.
Exactly.
And I'm sure.
So, you know
And
why
I'm
this
sure
issue-
he has.
You know why this issue came up? It's
Yeah.
because of what happened in 2015. That took 6 months.
That's
You know,
right.
don't say- That's why we come up with this. But I'm now saying, okay, if that is the case, now 2 months has been given by the Constitution, within which you form a cabinet, which is clear. But even before this election, or after the election, we will start hearing of those that will take a speakership, those that will be chief of staff, those that we saw some speculations of some selections being made.
No.
So that made me to believe that whether we like it or not, the man that has been elected as president should be thinking in the direction of who does this for me.
No,
Who does this for me?
let me also tell you something.
I'm a sergeant.
Yes, sir.
I'm a sergeant.
Yeah.
I believe that what should be important from May 29th, first things first, will be the president's first appointments.
Yeah.
Exactly.
First appointments, and those appointments do not require confirmation by the Senate.
Definitely.
And it will include, for instance, the secretary to the government of the Federation,
That would be known.
his chief of staff,
That
and
will
then
be
his
known.
key personal aides.
That will be known. Hopefully on the 29th.
It could be. It could do it on the 29th. He could do it within a few days of his inauguration. But these are his personal aides, as it were, and they don't need any approval. He cannot, of course, appoint a special advisor yet, because the Constitution requires him to inform the Senate
of the
number
of
special advisors that he intends to work with. And thereafter, once the Senate has been informed and they have been notified, he can then begin to
approve.
Populate those numbers. The same thing at the state level. So, Kyria, I think that part of what we should be looking at would be, in my view, to say, okay, what are the dynamics relating to first appointments?
Exactly. Now, I was coming to that. Let us look at the two scenarios, 2015 and today, 2023. 2015, don't forget, President Buhari emerged from a merger of parties. And he was largely, not a political figure. He just came in from a merger of parties, didn't know much of the people in the other political parties, but he had to couple a government that is probably, if you could say, a government of national unity within the context of the political party that has, come together. Now, here, the party had existed for almost nearly 10 years today. And that party is the party in which Bola Ahmed Tinubu had always been a member, from ACN to the merger, which is APC today. So he knows everybody within the party. Then don't forget also that Bola Ahmed Tinubu had reached out to other political parties and other individuals within the political space to say, look, let's come together and build a government that is national, national in nature. So we are talking of a situation where Bola Ahmed Tinubu has the most important tasks of building national cohesion. So he will look at all of these things. Well, like my brother there said, the first appointment will tell us which direction the government is going to go to. And those first appointments, some of them don't need any Senate confirmation or anything. And those ones will be made almost instanta. But like he said, ministers, you need Senate confirmation. Special advisors, you need to send to the Senate, the National Assembly, the number, because the Constitution envisaged that the remunerations and other things for these special advisors will come from the Consolidated Revenue Fund. And so those that are charged with oversighting the expenses within the Consolidated Revenue Fund, the budget system, the National Assembly must accept that you are going to have this number of advisors. So these ones, they are going to come almost. But I am telling you that from the date the president and the vice president were elected to date, all arrangement, all discussions around who occupies what position, who drives what policy have been done, both here and outside. When they sit down, these are the only things that they do now to plan how to take over. The Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashim Shettima had told people time to that number that they are going to hit the ground running. And I'm glad that responsible media outfits like NTA and the Good Morning Nigeria and some others have been informing Nigerians and informing the people elected and the people around them that these are the agendas that Nigerians are looking out for. And we hope that, some of these agendas are very key. Take, for example, rebuilding trust. Rebuilding trust is key to succeeding. They have to rebuild trust with the people. They have to bridge all the gaps that, would have been widened by politicking and political campaigns. Then of course, Nigerians are very passionate about ensuring that there is security in the land. This is the rainy season. One of the first things they must do is to quickly ensure that there is security within the hinterland, so that people who go to the farms can go to the farms, so we don't end up with a situation of food insecurity again. So we're looking at all of these things, and I'm sure that when the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the vice president-elect Kashim Shettima, take their oath of office on the 29th of May, you will see quite...
Okay, now you talk about renewed hope, which is the mantra, and of course rebuilding trust. I also had the president-elect talk about reconciliation, national unity. Right. So on social media, we read that, he offered the NMPP president candidate, some space, in the ministerial positions. That one is a speculation. Now, what do you think he should do to achieve the rebuilding of trust that Nigerians have on government? Because Nigerians have lost trust in government. There are no two ways about it. You are a people's person, you are a politician, or you participate in political activities, but I'm sure you're not one of those who are professional politicians. You participate in political space, right? So you understand.
Maybe because you didn't study political science.
No. He's a partaker in the business, and you understand it very well. Now, in this issue of rebuilding trust, national unity, and what have you, what should he be thinking of doing now as a president-elect, considering the fact that there are still wounds, as a result of the election? There are still sections of the society that feel that they are being marginalized. There are still sections of the society who are known to be marginalized in terms of political positions that are so glaring and all of that. Then, if he intends to, bring all of that on the table and deal with it, how possible do you think this can be? Because Nigerians are, like we said, we have hope that when he comes in, he must make a difference.
Okay, let us also say certain things that are real. It is real that the litigations going on all over the place have put a lot of doubts and question mark on certain things. There are even people, as we are discussing here today, there are people who believe that there may be no inauguration of Bola Tinubu on the 29th. There are people who believe that there may be upsets at the tribunal. There are people who believe all manner of things. But I tell you that there will be an inauguration. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, by the grace of God, will be inaugurated as president. Kashim will be vice president. And by the time, all of this reach a certain level of certainty, and that the president-elect is sworn in as the president of the country, a lot of people who are skeptical about whether he will be made the president or not would have dropped their skepticism, and then people will begin to come together and come around and begin to understand. The first thing he needs to do, and which discussions have gone very far, is just that a lot of it are not in the public space, is reach out to as many political parties as possible, big and small, to say, look, let us come together and look for the best Nigerians within the political space that can drive the process. And that will be the first. Then the second is to look at genuine concerns in regions and areas where people obviously are marginalized, and see how you can reach out to those areas and assuage their feelings and show them that, look, they are part of this country. We've always said we are better together, but you cannot be better together unless you are better together under the banner of equity, fairness, justice, and inclusion. And so those are the key things. And I think one of the drivers of rebuilding, trust in the public is for us to begin to couple together some shared values that every Nigerian will identify with. And that is very important. Then the other thing that he will do is to ensure that Nigeria is safe for Nigerians.
Okay, all right. Amasajo, of course, this will be a continuing conversation, certainly, and we hope that you will rejoin us in the course of a continuing conversation. But for today, we would like to appreciate you, as always, for your insights into the subject matter of the May 29th inauguration, which is just only 4 days away. So, Amasajo, former Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Adamawa State, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here with you.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service, and we are live from our headquarters studios in Abuja. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll get on with an aspect of the legacy projects of the outgoing. All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on NTA's network service. As we indicated before we took that short break, we're going to have a brief conversation now on some of President Buhari's administration's legacy projects. We have with us in the studios regular, this is the outgoing Minister of Water Resources, Engineer Suleiman Adamu. Engineer Suleiman Adamu, we're glad to have you this morning.
Good morning.
Well, you've been one of those who've been very active in terms of projects and commission of the projects in recent times. What's your take on the focus of the Buhari administration on completion and inauguration of what, of course, are now classified as legacy projects?
Well, I think right from day one is the most responsible thing to do as a government. Government is a continuum, so if there were projects that were initiated by previous administrations that have positive bearing on the people, they are beneficial to the people, I think that's the way to go. That's number one. Secondly, I think also it was an issue of necessity. We came in, I think the first week after President Buhari was sworn in June 2015, early June 2015, oil was at $28 a barrel. Subsequently, it rose a little bit, and by March 2016, terror was unleashed for some reason on the oil infrastructure in this country. And as you know, within the first quarter and second quarter of 2016, there was so many disruptions, sabotage on oil pipelines, to the extent that oil production dropped to about 500,000 barrels a day. We got back to about 25%. And which led to also a serious economic problem. Don't forget the fact that also when we inherited, when the President Buhari came into office, already the economy was on a downslide. So all these things all made a lot of sense that we should also concentrate on those projects that were there, that were started, investment had been made. If we allowed them to go, all that money would have been wasted. So it was a combination of responsibility, being responsible as a government, Even though we're an opposition government, we felt we had the responsibility to the Nigerian people to continue to do those things that we thought would be beneficial to the people. And secondly, it was also economic sense, really.
Okay, well, thank you, Honorable Minister. Yes, we all knew that when this government took off in 2015, the nation was in an economic turmoil, if you like, with respect to the downtime, in the revenue generated by, through the oil sector. Yes, I want to say this, that some Nigerians, in fact many Nigerians, have indeed benefited from some of the legacy projects that we were talking about. For instance, from the southeast of Nigeria, if anybody tells me that the second Niger bridge will be constructed by this administration, I would have said no to that, because of course we heard about second Niger bridge in 1982 under Shagari administration. Right. He made some move and he said, look, when I return, second time he was going to do that. That's also one man that is very responsible. We believed him, right? But he didn't return second term. But after that, other presidents promised that bridge. Other presidents, be it military or civilian. But this time around, the current administration focused on that, completed and delivered it. And I'm also sure that such projects also exist in other parts of Nigeria. Right, but I wanted to make this assessment in terms of infrastructure, which is one of the cardinal, focal points of this administration. Would you say that the infrastructure that came up on board during this administration have impacted Nigerians?
Oh, absolutely, in so many ways. If you look at, if you check the budget we inherited for Federal Ministry of Works, for instance, in 2015, were for the entire roads in this country was about 15 billion naira for roads. It's for works and housing. So I think the total budget is about 18 billion. So 15 was for roads. 2016, we increased that to about 200 and something billion naira. So, and you can see, you can see the roads, you can see the projects. Same thing with, for instance, if you have come to my own territory with the water supply sector, there were projects that were started in 1992. We completed them. They were literally abandoned. They not even that they were ongoing, they were abandoned, but we resuscitated them. Some were stopped in 1998, So, and people are benefiting. If you go and see some of the irrigation projects that we have resuscitated, the water supply projects, they're everywhere. So definitely people have benefited. And it's unfortunate that some projects also have a long gestation period. And we may have been able to finish them, but we are hopeful that the next administration will have quite a number also, and if they maintain the same philosophy that we maintained on dealing with these projects that that were started, were initiated, then we'll get there. In my ministry, for instance, I think probably there's only one project that I would say that is new. In the last 7.5 years, virtually all the projects we've been doing were to complete those projects that we met on ground. I've commissioned some projects. I've seen the faces of people. This thinking of disbelief that we're finally here. It's been happening. So you may not see testimonies in the newspapers and so on, but if you really want to know, go down to the grassroots and talk to the people, and you get the testimony from them.
Engineer Suleiman Adamu, tell us something. Was it a critical success factor to the accomplishments of the legacy projects that there was also longevity for the cabinet members who were in charge?
Oh, absolutely. I believe so. Even yesterday in my valedictory statement, the Federal Executive Council, I did mention in my own testimony that I think the President Buhari was strategic. His idea of allowing some of us to stay for a second term, I think was a major critical success factor, because I can tell you as a minister, I reflected. I said, I don't really understand why some governments have been doing all this reshuffle. If a minister is doing the work that he's doing, I don't see any reason why he should be changed. Because as a minister, excuse me, as a minister, once you're appointed, believe me, no matter how sharp you are, it will take you at least 6 months to understand what is going on in that ministry. And then you have to put up your program, your own roadmap, and your focus area, and then you start working on it, and within 2 years, you're asked to go. Then somebody else comes, and he's going to repeat the same cycle, so things will never get done. But if you allow some stability, I think it makes a lot more sense. And I think President Muhammadu Buhari, being an old hand in the system, having been part of the system as a minister, governor, minister, and then subsequently as head of state, I think his experience has come to bear. And honestly, I believe if that had not happened, probably in a lot of areas there would have been quite a bit of, it may not have been as good as we've had it.
Okay, now I've so much heard about the gestation period, long gestation period, especially in the solid mineral sector. I've followed this sector for more than 20 years, and I keep hearing gestation period, minister after minister, in trying to establish the fact that we have not mechanized mining in Nigeria, because the big multinationals who have the equipment to do that need some, whatever it is maybe contractual agreement or whatever it is that takes long, to manifest. But I'm wondering whether we could do that for all our life, to be able to mechanize this very solid mineral sector. And, it's worrisome, and that is why a sector in every state in this country, there is a mineral deposit or mineral deposits. Nasarawa champions it, Kogi, the same thing. Yet, we are busy searching for oil everywhere, when already we have deposits that are manned and that are not even, I don't know how to put it, but then if it's a long decision period that is required to establish a concrete agreement with multinationals in this sector, why must it take decades to do that? Now, let us know what this administration did in this regard.
Well, first of all, although I'm not a mining expert, but I can tell you that mining requires a lot of investment in terms of equipment and so on and so forth. Then it requires a lot of data. I think this administration has done very well in terms of data acquisition. I'm almost certain that a lot of surveys have been conducted, and we now know we have an inventory of the kind of things we have on ground in terms of mineral assets. But you see, there's a lot more to it. You need a lot of capital. Government cannot be the one to inject that capital. The private sector that we're talking about, most of the major mining companies in the world, they are also some kind of monopoly. So, and also because of the way, sometimes simply because they want to keep the prices, attractive. They know all the mineral sites in this world, but they will decide on their own. They don't want to invest here, and they have their strategic plans also. So no matter how much you try to bring them into your own turf, to get them to invest, they may not be willing to do that.
Some countries depend on such minerals. Some countries depend on.
Yes, I'm telling you, it's an international cartel. So no matter what you do, they will decide on what to do.
Play to them.
Yes. And then they always want to take everything for nothing. And Nigeria, we're a very proud country. We're a very sensible country. I don't think anybody can come and treat us the way they treat some of these other African countries that have these minerals. Then, unfortunately also, Nigeria is such a vast country, and we have people, citizens that are not patriotic, and even the laws are there. They go right into the bush where you cannot police them. They come with some rogue elements from foreign countries, and they take these minerals also for nothing. And so this not only artisanal mine, but illegal miners. There's quite a lot of illegal mining going on. And those kind of things, we have lots of problems like that need to be taken care of. But if Nigerians will be patriotic enough to get a license to regularize, these activities, and do it in a legal way, then I think we can benefit more out of it.
I would like you, Honorable Minister, to tell our viewers something about President Buhari's attitude to projects. As Minister of Water Resources, you had a number of projects, but it's also a very well-known fact that there are usually interests, and sometimes these are contradictory interests. To say, look at what Engineer Suleiman Adamu is seeking to do. No. This is not getting the right contractor. People will go around, you are smiling because you know what I'm getting at. Oh no, they vary the contract sum and so on and so forth. And many would say that in part this is what started a great number of these projects that we're looking at. Tell us, what was President Buhari's attitude usually to this kind of pressures that sometimes will come when you are not with him, or when you are not making your pitch for approval?
I will tell you in all honesty, I will all sense of responsibility that President Muhammadu Buhari has never, ever asked anybody to break the rules. He has or procedures. He is a procedures man. He likes everything to be followed, all procedures to be followed. So he has never, ever interfered with what we are doing, and he has given us all the latitude to do the work we need to do. And there are checks and balances within the system. You have your procurement department, you have BPP, you have to come to FEC at beyond a certain level. Even to get variations, you have to write to the president if the project is above a certain threshold to get his approval to even take it to BPP. So, and he does that responsibly. He has never ever interfered with the way we do things. But every time he tells us, go and do the things you need to do. If you look at his speech yesterday at the valedictory session, he said, we still have a couple of days to go, but we should not allow the so-called rush hour to make us do things that are unbecoming. So you can't come back to him and say because of exigencies that where this government is living on Monday, I had to cut corners to do this. And no, that is totally unacceptable to him. So we have behaved responsibly, and our president has given us all the necessary backing to that effect. We have brought things to council. There are certain times when he was not satisfied with what was presented in terms of relating to contracts or so. He would step down the memo and tell you to go back and do what you need to do. So that's the way we've been operating. I can assure you we have had challenges sometimes with budgetary issues especially from the National Assembly. And sometimes, of course, understandably, because they also are federal public servants themselves and have constituencies, they like to include certain projects to be done in their constituencies. So that has been created some. Sometimes they are not very well prepared, but we have to wait and do the preparation. I can tell you, before I came to my ministry, there are certain projects that were started with preliminary engineering designs. And when they go to site, sometimes they even awarded the contract without without identification of the site. It was only after the contract was awarded and the contractor went to site, and then they say, this place is not, the dam axis, this is not suitable, we'll have to move elsewhere, and then variations. That has not happened in our administration. And I can tell you in my ministry, in particular, there's no way in the last 7.5 years you would have come to do a project without proper design.
All right, let's stay in your ministry, where you championed the cost of development within these 7.5 years, or almost 8 years that we're talking about. I know that water is on the concurrent list, and that state administrations must not, key into your water policies, as the case may be. But what remains sacrosanct is the fact that the public must be given water to drink. But that's not the position in many states of Nigeria, and even the states governed by APC government. Well, in some other states, like ours and others, who are not governed by the APC, we don't even talk about that, because one, as far as water is concerned, you are on your own. Most old cities like Enugu and the rest of them don't have water after over 60 years of existence and what have you. I know, because I have covered water, that you have made all frantic efforts to ensure that government at subnational levels key into your policy. You supply the bulk water, which is your primary responsibility. They have the responsibility to, reticulate this water, perhaps treat it and reticulate, which is not happening. Well, what I'm going to ask you is, did you ever have any kind of a monitoring mechanism, to check whether the public is drinking water? Because yes, you are the Minister of Water. The overall, we may have a state commissioners for water and what have you. Well, but you are the hem of affairs in terms of structuring. You monitor state administrations to see what they're doing, especially APC-run states.
Well, absolutely. As federal minister, it's not only APC states. We are responsible for all the states of the federation, I think, in summary. But you have mentioned that water is on the concurrent list. It is not the responsibility of the federal government to provide water to the people in their taps. It is the responsibility of state government. I've said that for the umpteenth time. That is why there is no federal water board anywhere except Abuja FCT, and it is not under the Federal Ministry of Water, so it's under the Federal Capital Territory Administration. And at that level, currently this administration is investing almost $500 million to expand the Abuja water scheme. If you go around the city, you see lots of work going on, major pipes for greater Abuja water. So we have delivered. Again, there's a gestation period. So this project is going to take some time to accomplish. It's not going to be accomplished within the lifespan of this administration. Now, the problem is states have not been investing. First of all, in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, golden period for water supply. So very nice investments everywhere. But something has happened between the 90s and today. You hardly find any major investment, I think, apart from Lagos and Kano, and to some extent Rivers under Amechi. I do not know of any other state that has made huge investment in water within the last 20 years. And water is something that is organic. You cannot just do this for 2 years and stop. Populations keep increasing. So you have to be ahead of the population. As long as you don't do that, there's always going to be deficit. What do we do at our level? We have introduced so many things under this administration. First of all, we looked at the gap in rural water supply. In 2016, we created the Partnership for Expanded Water, Sanitation and Hygiene program to work with the states to incentivize them to invest more in rural water supply. Now we're working with about 17 or 18 states. We are giving 50% contribution from federal level. Then we did the National Wash Action Plan, launched by President Muhammad Buhari in 2018, and he declared a state of emergency on water, sanitation, and hygiene. That is to say, well, this is a critical factor, and therefore, state government, he said it, that state government should prioritize water. Many states prioritize dualization of carriageways, street lighting, airports, you understand, at the expense of this. I have seen states, I've visited states, I'm traversing roads, for 15-20 minutes, you will not see a single vehicle. And it's an asphalt road, billions of naira spent to build that road, Class A road, the same size as the federal Trunk A road, when it is not even necessary. You don't need to do that. There are various classes of roads, depending on the traffic, and depending on the traffic the road will attract after completion. So there has been misplacement of funding at the expense of water, sanitation, and hygiene, and that is what we've been trying to get them to do. Then again, we went further to get to leverage some funding from the World Bank, $700 million. 6 states are enjoying that facility now, 6 or 7 states, and then it's going to be revolving, And finally, we tried again to do more by introducing a wash fund and incorporating it within the Water Resources Bill. And then it is the same states that would benefit from this initiative, or some of them, I would say some of the states that are in dire need of these funds to invest are the ones that got confused and decided to oppose the bill. So what do you want us to do? We have done everything we need to do for them.
Again, still in the water sector, what legacy projects are you most proud of as a minister?
Well, quite a number, but I'm very happy to have been able to complete the Zobe water supply project in Katsina State, for instance, because that started in 1992. I'm very glad that we're able to finish Hadeja Valley irrigation project, which was initiated during the Shagari regime. And then, of course, recently we commissioned Dadinkowa hydropower concession, which was also, I think it was started in 2003. And the 14,500 hectares rehabilitation of the Kano River Irrigation Project. This was a project that was started by Kano State Government in 1976, handed over to the federal government. When I came into office, 1/3 of that irrigation scheme was not functioning. It has been completely rehabilitated with support from the World Bank, and was commissioned last 2 weeks by Mr. Vice President. But all in all, I'm quite happy with quite a number of other projects that I'm also happy with. But there are others that I wish I would have been able to accomplish. Unfortunately, time, COVID-19, the Ukraine war, they have distorted our, our stream of funding for us to be able to complete those projects. But I'm also happy that we've been able to concession quite a number of projects. In the last few weeks, I think I have 5 memos that were approved by council on a PPP arrangement on some of our projects. And this is one of the major things that was in our roadmap, which was approved by the President in 2016, that we put it that we want to find alternative means of funding the projects. One of the projects, which is the only one that I think I would say I've initiated, is the Gurara 2 hydropower project. It's going to be a combination of a loan, part funding by the contractor and counterpart funding by the federal government. And it's going to realize 360 megawatts of electricity, hydropower, and maybe it has a potential of about 8,000 hectares of irrigation. So that's about the only project that I'm leaving as headache to whoever is coming in. But I think that most of the funding has been realized. I just hope that the 15% that the federal government will have to inject will be provided by subsequent administrations.
Yes. What can you, I know you're not an expert in some of these, but as a key minister in this administration, you may have knowledge of certain government programs, projects, and implementation. Now, power, is one area, the Nigerians are yet to have relief, because of what we know about the complexities and ups and downs and what have you, unbundling of NEPA and other having GENCOs, DISCOs, all those, the entire scenario, since 1999 till now. And this administration also came on board to say, look, it's going to do something on power. Right, and what can you say to that? What have you been able to achieve in this regard?
If you recall, during our first term, I think my good friend and brother Babatunde Fashola was the Minister of Power. And he did say at that time that the power reforms that we inherited was a booby trap. I can tell you, if you look at some of the agreements that were signed by the federal government related to these power reforms, it's just disgusting. I don't know how a government would have allowed itself to get into that kind of situation. So if we tried to tamper with those agreements at that time, the kind of, let me use the local language, attachment of federal assets because of court cases. You can see even yesterday, at the National Assembly, they received a request by the President to approve some judgment debts, All these debts were not incurred by this administration. They were incurred, one of them was to the tune of about $500-something million. If we had tampered with those agreements, what would have been, what federal government would end up being liable for would have been made probably 10 times more than this. So federal government had to find another way to deal with it. So we just had to be maneuvering to see, especially the discourse. The way the discourse were restructured. I think it was a terrible thing, and that became so difficult because most of the discourse were now acquired by people that had nothing, they knew nothing about power, and they didn't invest a dime. Instead, they kept collecting our revenues, and doing something else with it. And you can see Nemesis has caught up with many of them because of underperformance. They borrowed money from the banks, and the banks are taking them over. So we are waiting for this kind of scenario to happen so that we'll be able to, in the end, at least find a way to restructure some of these issues. And I believe that is ongoing, but of course this administration is going, and subsequent administration, I'm sure, will find a way to get the right people to come and invest. But we have also invested in the Siemens project. We have tried to complete other transactions that we inherited, some of the power generating stations. I think one of the major mistakes, from my point of view, of the reforms of the power sector that were done since the Obasanjo administration was they didn't seem to understand that the power system, is integrated, just like water supply. You cannot have water unless you have the source, the water treatment plant, the transmission lines, and the distribution network, and the storage reservoirs. So they invested money in generation without commensurate investment for that generated power to be transmitted and then to be distributed. You have to work with all this intertwined. You cannot say we'll do this and then we don't do that. And that is why the situation has extended and pervaded today. But it will take a little time. I'll take you back to the gestation period again. They got it wrong, and there is a gestation period that we have to pass through for us to be able to get there.
I just wonder, Honorable Minister, we are pressed for time. We know that there are a number of state engagements today. Usually, matters within the ESCO chambers are kept within the ESCO chambers. But just tell our viewers, what was the mood like at the valedictory session yesterday?
Well, a bit emotional, of course, but also agog. I think for some of us that have served for nearly 8 years, it's really a relief that we're taking a break out of it, because it's really been a tough sail. But also I think everybody had good things to say about our president. We thanked him and appreciated the privilege he gave us to serve our country. And also I think what was instructive was everybody who testified that there was not a single moment that the president sent anybody or tried to interfere with, to micromanage what we are doing. So a lot of appreciation for the president, for the council secretariat, and for all those that have been part of this, that have supported the ministers and members of the Federal Executive Council in so many ways. And we wish the president well, and we wish each other well, and for the friendship and bond that we have acquired with the yes.
All right, sir. Engineer Suleiman Adamu, Minister of Water Resources, until 29th of May. We thank you for being here this morning. We've always been he's a media-friendly minister. He's been a wonderful man. Each time we call him, you come around, and air his views and all of that. We appreciate you so much for doing that.
Thank you very much.
All right. This is Good Morning Nigeria.